In anticipation of the Final Fantasy VII Remake DLC integrate for the PS5, I was so excited to finally get the chance to play with Yuffie. I decided I wanted to go back, play the game in its entirety, and see if any information or details would stick out to me and be linked to the DLC. I'm a person who personally doesn't like to spoil my own games and stuff. So I will be using spoilers in this video in regards to Final Fantasy VII Remake, the PS4 and PS5 version, and the integrated DLC. So if you would not like to have the game spoiled for you, this is your time. Close out this video, go play the game, enjoy it. It's a beautiful game. But I'm going to give you 7 seconds and spoiler discussion begins. Now I'd like to give a special thanks to Grimoire Valentine because I try to use as much as my own gameplay in this video, but he has all of Before Crisis recorded and it's all archived on his YouTube channel. He also has even more information on his free website. Check. Alright, so there'll be 2 points that I'll try to get across during this video. The first point is that whenever there's information given from the flow of time, there are certain effects that you can see. One of these effects is the sparkling lights and the purple streams. As you can see, I have Cloud using the refocus material. The refocus material allows the character to become stronger. It gives them an ATB gauge and it gives them like a 1-point stat boost to their stats. I believe that this is because when you use this materia, it's drawing from the flow of time or allowing the person to know the true potential they have. That's why it makes them stronger. But as you can see, the purple streams of the sparkling lights do swirl around Cloud, and I'll get into something else later in another example. When Aerith touched Red 13 and he became docile, you can see the lights and the purple streams once again. And when the team was hit by the screams of the planet, once again, those lights and purple streams can be seen. The lights and the purple streams, once again, are not connected to the Whisper's tornado, but more so whenever the tornado interacts with the singularity. You have to remember this is a world that was created. And when Cloud uses refocus, you'll see the electricity spark off of his body. This is the same electricity that you can see spark off of the Harbinger of Fate. And before he has like this big roar, those streams bust out of him once again. When his limbs are destroyed, we already know this scene. The limbs come off, the streams and sparkling lights interact with the party. They see a future of Red 13 running. They see a scene from Advent Children when they were all engaged with Sephiroth. This power draws from the information through time, and it's not exclusive to one character, such as Sephiroth or the Whispers, because we see Aerith use it as well, and it can be seen when you use the refocus material. So when the scene with Zack begins, you do see the smoke of the Whispers, but it's these sparkling lights and purple streams that last longer than their smoke. We also know as historians of Final Fantasy VII that this is a moment in the past. Let's just put that there. Because we see Zack, we're getting a moment in the past, we're getting information from the moment of time, and despite whatever else is going on in this scene, we're just going to establish we know this time and place is before the time and place of Cloud and the others standing on the highway. And we know this is their past. So I don't know if Zach can see the whispers at this moment because he's always been near Aerith and she has the touch that allows people to see the whispers. He could have even got it just from dealing with all the events of Crisis Core. But because I just want you all to know, this is a moment in the past, and the only reason you are seeing it is because of the streams and sparkling lights. It signifies a moment, and it fades out to Aerith's face, which means that she's the one experiencing that vision as well, because Cloud is normally the person that it happens to. Now, after defeating the main campaign, we return to Zack, and there's a red herring that caused the whole discussion of alternate realities, and it's the stamped chip bag. It's not unlikely that companies make limited edition labels just for special promotions. This could be just that. But like I said earlier, I don't know for sure what's going on in this scene, but it matches up very close with the events of Before Crisis. They can just rearrange the events of Final Fantasy Remake by incorporating or integrating all of the compilation into the Final Fantasy VII storyline. When the Turks defeat Zeronicade, it explodes. Zack is blown away from an explosion. And there's one key detail that is consistent with Before Crisis that occurs in this ending scene, and it's these sparkling lights. In Before Crisis, when Zeronicade is destroyed, there is a scene with Aerith in the city of Midgard, and she noticed that it's something that looks like snow coming down from the sky, but it's really just the lights and remnants of his energy from the explosion. This is exactly the similar effect that is now being seen as Zack looks up into the sky after this explosion. And you have to think, Zeronicade was an event that attacked all of Midgard, and the whispers were covering all of Midgard. The people of this town, this is I believe in Sector 7, are dealing with, seems like something just happened. We know that we're still in the same time period from when Zack was just standing on the outskirts. The people have been dealing with something. I believe it was that event that the whispers were covering the entire city for. And there's, once again, the consistency to help you understand that this is the exact time and place, and the exact same event just happened because this snowing light comes down to the Undercity. And even if that was in Sector 7 and then we come here to Sector 5, the lights are still snowing down. And once again, another scene that confused everyone was here with Biggs and Jesse's glove. Because we know in the main campaign in the future, they died when the plate fell. But here you can see that Biggs is in the bed, he's bandaged up, and you start to think, well, Biggs somehow survived, but he didn't because those lights snowing down. When you go into the scene with Marlene, which is now a scene in the future, the light is nowhere to be seen. It even comes from Aerith's room, through her window out into the flowers, and zooms all the way back to Barrett. There is no snow seen throughout this transition, and that is because the scene with Zack and the scene with Cloud and the others are in two different time periods, because we were taken back in time with the sparkling lights and purple streams. There is a second effect now that seems to be triggering information from the flow of time. And as the scene ends, it starts to rain. When it starts to rain, of illusion of Zack and Cloud walk past the party. They don't notice this because it's just juxtaposed. Zack and Cloud going into Midgard as Cloud and his party are leaving Midgard. But it's through this rain here where Zack and Cloud are going through, and the rain touching Aerith, is that she notices this type of feeling or the energy of it. She can feel Zack leave this place, or she feels the memory and can actually see it. You can see she holds out her hand to catch the rain. It's clearly bothering her. It caused some type of effect to her. We know that water in the ancients is also linked. So I believe rain is a exclusive type of effect that will go into Aerith when they can't use the sparkling lights and purple streams to give us, the audience, a visualization of what's happening in the past. Instead, they will use rain and Aerith. She mentions that she misses the steel sky. And then in the intergrade ending, she actually mentions where's a roof when you need one. Because she knows that the rain does something to her. And just as the scene before cued in a scene with Zack, this cues in once again another scene regarding Zack as he returns to the Sector 5 church. Zack is no longer damaged from the fight with the Shinra troopers, and they only put a certain angle on the church throughout this entire sequence to not show you certain aspects of the church that you can look at in the present day. And this will bring me around to my second point, that there is a red herring laced in the church itself in this scene with Zack. And there are also inconsistencies throughout the entire game that help confuse the audience into thinking we're in a parallel universe. When Zack enters the church and we see the topsiders from the opening video of Final Fantasy VII Remake, why are these characters in the church during Zack's timeline? Because it wouldn't make sense, because the characters that are all here appear along with Aerith in the opening title, which we assume takes place right before the bombing of Mako Reactor 1. People were immediately able to see the differences in the church on the inside that resembles the church from Crisis Core. But I also want to say, did you take notice that some of the residents from the top side are duplicates? If you carefully look, there's an individual who is sitting down on the ground with that white hoodie. And if you look, the characters all on the right side line up to this other scene here, where this same character is once again sitting down there. Unless this person is a twin, they seem to have used the exact same person and just flipped them around the other way. And there lies the inconsistency. If you take note to the design of the church and how much detail goes into it, there are Doric spires all throughout the inside and out of the building. And what about this wooden frame down on the inside? Whereas in the Zack scene, the frame is made out of stone. And in the future, the Corinthian spires are replacing the Doric spires that was accompanying the stone frame. On the wall with the cross is made of wood, and you can see a lot of decorative borders at the base of the wall and over the doors that aren't represented. the question isn't what realm we are in, but it's rather why did Shinra start fixing Sector 5 and then just suddenly stop? Toriyama wanted to emphasize the damage of the rocket in the Sector 5 church because you couldn't really tell that it was a rocket in the original Final Fantasy VII. The story that is being told in the church, from all the broken pillars to the holes in the roof, that I believe has to do with Zack. So if we aren't in a parallel dimension, what is it? Well, number one, I believe there was a fire in the church. You can see a bunch of charred debris. It was either the rocket or a battle that shook the entire church to its core. Because around the entrance and other doorways, you can see that the stones are disheveled. But in other areas, they are still neatly ordered. There are many holes in the ceiling that line up with like a trajectory with the broken pillars. If there was fire damage, it would explain why they chose to replace the wall or the cross with a stone wall, and why a lot of the decorative borders are now missing. And when you enter the back room, the rocket has caused most of the damage in the room. But there is another hole in this roof. But if you take a look at it, it is not causing any of the damage down on the ground floor. And as you ascend the floors in the back room, you can tell there was a fire because the wooden paneling is missing. And when you look at the top of the ceiling on each one of these floors, you will see the smoke damage. But there is no smoke damage on the other walls. Also, pay attention to the chandelier that Cloud cuts down during the scene when air falls towards the Shinra troopers. As you get into the attic, returning to the hole that you could see, you can notice that all the planks are pointing up, showing that whatever went through the roof didn't come from the outside in, it came from the inside out. Zack could have gotten into a fight here, and he could have gotten into a fight with someone pretty heavy and big. But continuing in the attic, the hole in the upper wall shows a discoloration from the lower wall. The upper wall matches more of the remainder of the original church, whereas the new stone wall with the cross matches the color of the Corinthian spires, which can still build the case that a lot of the church has been rebuilt. The hole coming from the upper room also lines up with another broken pillar. Not every hole in the main hall of the church has a trajectory into a broken pillar. And if you continue to explore the attic and look at the holes in the ceiling from a closer view, you can see that the hole that Cloud caused has planks that are pointing downward because he fell into the church. The hole that is besides the hole Cloud created also has one sole plank that is pointing downwards. And when you go further down to the hole that Aerith and Cloud walked out of, the shingles and the planks are all pointing downward, meaning something came in this hole. And if you're on the same step with me, I'm hinting at that the deep ground could have been hunting down Zack because they were already sent out to retrieve Genesis during this time. And if it wasn't for Nero mentioning that it had been a while since he had been on a hunt, when Yuffie and Sonon entered Deep Ground, that it made me think that someone like Azul the Cerulean or Rosso the Crimson could have went after Zack while Whis and Nero were dealing with Genesis. The unfortunate thing is that the game is handled by many different animators, and there are inconsistencies throughout the entire game that they add to the red herring effect of a stamp bag, or just how they never want to show you certain angles of the church and they'll hide it behind Zach's body, or they just won't break an angle to show a column because they'll put people in the way. When you return to the church with Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett later in the game, the chandelier that Cloud had cut down had been put back up. Now this could have been a mistake, or it could have been Shinra fixing the church still, because there is no clear sign that whoever's fixing the church stopped fixing the church, because even furniture was placed on the steps to restrict access to the attic. When you go on your little stroll with Aerith, and you can see the rocket from the outside, if you look down at the rocket through the holes, you'll notice that you don't see the blue tarp and broken stained glass that you should see from the opposite side. And even at other points of the game, such as the night at Aerith's house, you can look up into the skybox and see the strange UFO or light that's just hovering in midair, but is not there during the morning. And constantly, the damage to Sector 6 is never rendered exactly the same. From the scene where Cloud is in the singularity, to the opening scene, to even these posters that are throughout the game, the Sector 6 damage is never shown to be consistent. I want to circle back to how this is a past event and a future event, but I even want to bring up that the opening scene with Aerith, the lamps and the alleyway that she is in, doesn't look like anything of the alleyway that Cloud can walk back to. And even if she was farther back in that alleyway, it wouldn't make sense that the lights fixtures just suddenly changed. And this is why I just want to introduce the thought that the scene with Zack, or even the scene in the opening, are moments in the past. If you look at Midgard during the scene, yes, the exact same topsiders that are stepping on Aerith's flower and riding their bikes are inside the church. But if you look at the scene as it zooms out, the top Loveless poster is missing from the future, and the steel frame that's near the Studio White sign is no longer there. If the explosion from the Mako 1E reactor had caused the steelwork to collapse, then we would have been able to see it in game.
So I want to close this out. We can say that the church is different because of the damage, or we can just say that it's an inconsistency with the rendering. But because Zack's scene was introduced with the purple strings and shimmering lights, we know that Zack's events are happening in the past. And there's some level of importance for everyone that was included in that cutscene. The people of Sector 7, Biggs in the bed, but we'll have to wait for Final Fantasy 7 Part 2. I still want to give special thanks out to Grimoire Valentine for letting me use content from his videos. I want to thank DJ Track for giving him music to put onto this video. Audrey over on Twitter, always translating the Ultimania. Anyone that ever contributes to, Final Fantasy 7 wikis, I grab that information from there too. And, just the entire Square Enix team for giving me a game that I've just been loving for over a decade. My name is Zion OAS, or the Incredible WJZ. You can find me under those two handles. You can also check out my other YouTube videos. I appreciate it if you would like, subscribe. You can hit the bell because I will be uploading more videos. Check out my podcast in my link description. And I'd just like to thank everybody who stuck out and watched the entire video. I appreciate you, and all you guys. Just have a nice day.